Hello again, everybody. I'm coming to you tonight with a little tale of ant behaviour that I've been lucky enough to film. And the very first thing I'd say to you is that unfortunately this little tale does not have a happy ending, which rather spoils the ending a little bit. But if you're easily upset, please don't watch. But first of all, while I was filming this little intro bit here, an ant came along with another piece of ant behaviour which I've observed, so I've left that in so I can talk about it. And here it comes now, look, with a couple of pebbles of sand, which it then proceeds to drop into the maple syrup. And Lasius niger, they do this a lot, and they're not the only species. And us ant keepers, we're not actually sure why they do it. Some people claim it's to cover up the syrup so that other creatures don't find it. But mine never drop more than 10 to 15 little grains of sand in each time, so it can't be for that reason. Personally, I think it's to act as sort of stepping stones or something in case they get into the middle and they're getting a bit stuck. It gives them some traction to push against, but nobody really knows. So anyway, on to tonight's tale. And yes, it is quite a sad tale, like I said, but the reason I keep ants, and I've said this before, is that I like to watch their behaviour. I'm not keeping ants to have a big exotic species with massive mandibles that look scary or anything like that, or as a mantelpiece ornament. Or I keep ants because I want to watch what they're up to. I love observing them, I love filming them, I love just seeing their day-to-day behaviour and trying to work out the rules that make them behave the way that they do. So here, is a worker drinking the maple syrup which I feed to them, and the maple syrup sits on a piece of greaseproof paper in a bottle top in the corner of their outworld. So here is the crime scene for tonight's drama. This is sort of how much maple syrup I'm feeding my colony now. You can see it's quite a big puddle, and as I said, it's right in the corner. So here, and that just when I'm taking it in and out, it means it doesn't slide much because it's wedged. But here's the actual corner of the outworld, and they love to climb corners. So they love climbing up this corner of the outworld. And at the top of the outworld I have my fluon barrier, and we'll talk about fluon later, but basically fluon is a paint that you paint onto your outworld. It's completely clear when you paint it on. And then it dries, and when it dries like this, to this sort of, it looks like it's still wet, but it's not. That's completely dry. And what it is, it's tiny, tiny little particles. And when the ants put their feet on those tiny particles, they fall. The particles give way and they fall, like this ant, straight into the syrup. Plop. And this unfortunately happens sometimes because the syrup's directly below that corner. So she's trapped. What are we going to do? What are they going to do? So the very first thing that they have to do is they have to get her out of the syrup. And here you'll see a worker drags the body out of the syrup, completely covered in sticky maple syrup. You can see she's totally looped up in it. And then once they've got her out, they all start to come round, and pretty much every ant that turns up to the maple syrup takes its turn in cleaning and drinking maple syrup directly from the worker to try and clean her off. Sometimes there's pairs of them, sometimes they're singular, but they're constantly going and cleaning up the maple syrup. And you can see here, if you look at her legs, she's in quite a puddle of maple syrup at this moment in time. But over time, as I said, they drink that puddle down, they drink away and get her more and more freed up. So here she is a little bit later. You can see there's a lot less maple syrup around her, and she's getting cleaner and cleaner. And again, like I said, sometimes there's two, sometimes there's one, sometimes there's none at all. And they did this. This went on for about an hour, this stage here of cleaning her. And I did in a minute. You'll see there's a little bit of footage. You're just seeing them. Like I said, they're getting down to the last little bits, look, between her legs, right on the floor, getting right underneath her, trying to clean as much as possible. But there's a little segment coming up in a second where I actually thought I saw her move, but I don't know if it was actual movement or just the worker from behind, because there's one, here it is. Does she move her head and her leg there? I'm not sure. Or whether it's just that worker behind maybe pushing her a little bit. Now, as you can see, she's getting really, really dry at this point. So, but because this is out in the outworld on the maple syrup, it's a long way from the nest, so it's always ones and twos. So eventually this one here decides that she might be free enough and has a little go at moving her gaster a little bit and thinking, oh, actually, well, they don't think, but realizing that the gaster is free or can be moved, this worker decides it might be time to try and take the glooped up ant back into the nest where they can have more support, more workers, and they'll be able to clean better in there. And so, coming up in a second, this worker picks her up and takes it back to the nest. And I must apologise now for what you're about to see, but when you're using a microscope camera like this, staying track of ants when they're running around is really tricky. So I'm sorry for the quality of the shots about to come up. But yeah, here she goes, get the whole thing. And she's still really quite glooped up, as you'll see when she picks her up. You can see the maple syrup still quite all over her. And off she goes, heading back to the nest with the gunked up body of the worker. And as I said, it was hard to focus, it was hard to chase after and keep track as she was making her way back across the outworld, so I do apologise for this part. But I wanted to try and tell the whole rescue effort from start to finish. And actually, at this point, I was conscious of what I was filming, and as you'll see in just a second, as the worker takes the glooped up worker down the hole, I'm scrambling trying to pull the ant's nest, the whole setup forward, trying to take the covers off so I can film what's going on inside, thinking, oh my word, and here I just about got everything set up as she's coming back in, and yet again, I'm sorry for the camera work, but I was trying to get focused as quickly as I could on where she was. But yeah, this is just coming round the final corner into the final chamber, and when she brings the worker into this first actual sort of inhabited chamber, this is the dry chamber where they've got the pupa, you'll see that loads of them, and they all get very excited, they all swarm round, they all join in. And yeah, here's, as you can see, there were lots and lots of workers, and again this went on for about another hour. So this is 2 hours now since this worker first fell into the maple syrup, and they're still trying to save the worker, still trying to clean her. But I'm afraid, as I said, this story does have quite a sad end, and as you can see, eventually they started to sort of ignore the worker more and more and clean her less and less. I think by now she's very, very clean, and there's sort of no response from her. She's not waking up. So I didn't actually catch it on film, but eventually what happens is a worker comes and takes her into the larvae pile. And yeah, ants being ants, everything is for the good of the colony, and this is protein, and protein is what we feed to they feed to the larvae, and so that unfortunately is her ultimate fate when they realise that yeah, she is indeed dead. And you can see here, actually, if you look, you can see her gaster is all sort of crushed up at this point, where something, either workers or larvae, have sucked out all the inside. So yeah, I'm sorry if you are of a sensitive nature, and I did warn you at the start that this rescue attempt did not have a happy end. Thank you for watching. Until next time, goodbye.